Errol, I think the All Blacks overperformed given their expectations. So the fact that they could have won the World Cup yesterday was astronomical to me, and winning it, could have won it with 14 men was even more amazing. Had that opportunity, but for, I was going to say some poor officiating, but even just some poor goal kicking at the end of the day, and maybe some poor decisions. I mean, it's remarkable they got that close. Is it your anticipation? Did you expect them to win the World Cup, or did you have the same sort of low expectations as the rest of us?
No. I expected them to go there to win a World Cup.
Okay.
They are the All Blacks. Okay, and yes, we can. It's another discussion we can have one day around the last couple of years and what's happened with regards to teams we've lost to, etc. and all that. But I expected the All Blacks to go to the World Cup, to go there to win. So I'm sure, and it sort of showed that was their mindset. And we're 1 point away, 2 points away. You're right, 5 points. Penalty and a misconversion. We were that close to winning it. So I understand the disappointment that Fozzie would have and the players will have, and us as a nation. But we can also be bloody proud of the way they played, because you're right, 14 men for. We played that game with 14 men for a long periods of time. We lost our captain. We lost Frizzell, Shannon, 2 or 3 minutes into the game. That's a tough gig. And for them to hang tough, because we knew what happened when we played them in London pre the tournament, where we had those yellow cards, and the whole game just fell apart and we got absolutely smoked that day. For them to take the learnings from that and then to hang tough on the weekend and stay in the game and could have, we can probably say should have, maybe, I don't know, could have won the game. But the reality is they were so close. And maybe if one of those penalties or that conversion had been kicked, the whole spirit of the nation might be a bit different, obviously. But I still think as a rugby country, we can be bloody proud of what they did. But the reality is, my expectation of them was to go there and to win a World Cup, and that's where there is some disappointment.
Listen, just take me through your career first of all. I remember you playing for counties. You were a big unit. Errol. You used to play off the back. You used to listen. You had that sort of South African Māori mentality running through you. Actually, You played for the New Zealand Maoris, yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, captained the side for 10 years under Matt Tapo.
Yep.
We played under Matt and a few other coaches, Billy Bush, etc., leading up to Matt Tapo, but I captained the side under Matt's regime from about 94, 95 through to when I left in 99, but he continued coaching that side through to about 2005. So I've got a real affinity and deep connection with that team.
Now, did you go to South Africa in 1994?
Yeah, I did. So that was a tour that went ahead with regards to, I was trying to scratch my brain about it this morning, and I was like, geez, that's a while ago now. But yeah, it was a tour that was sort of organised through, if I remember correctly, through the Transvaal Rugby Union, and it was a tournament where we played in Africa over a few weeks. It was really exciting for us as rugby players, or and particularly Māori All Black rugby players, because it was the opportunity to play against the old foe. And for a lot of us, that was the first time that we got given that opportunity.
What was the reaction in South Africa to the Māori All Blacks there? Because it would have, apartheid was over. When did the All Blacks go and play that one-off test? Was that 92? 92, yeah. The All Blacks had been there in 92. South Africa toured in 93 to New Zealand, and then we went on that tour to South Africa in 94. And it was the most incredible, hospitable people that I've ever experienced. Good rugby people, as you can imagine. So very deeply connected to the game. Have a great understanding of the game, obviously, with the history they have. And it was a tour, and whenever you had the opportunity to play against South African teams, whether that be in Super Rugby or for the Māori All Blacks, or even for our provincial side, which we were fortunate enough to do with counties, you knew you were coming up against the old foe, because a bit like you, Michael, I have long memories of watching games as a young fella, and everyone wanted to be measured against the Springboks, against South African rugby players. So for New Zealanders, we have this very deep
connection with them because of the way they play the game.
And also the history, isn't it? Because they played their first games 1921, 1928, Springboks All Blacks. There was also, and I think both those two first, the games here and the games over there were drawn series. So there was no clear winner from those first two. I'm actually also thinking there's quite a history with Māori and the Springboks too, because Māori were banned from representing New Zealand in that 1960s All Black tour of South Africa. Did that ever enter your consciousness, knowing that there was that sort of history and heritage as well?
Oh, look, we're certainly well aware of what had gone on in the past, but certainly, I think to put context around it, Michael, we're all young men, wanting to play rugby, and to get the opportunity to go to South Africa was incredible, and to get to play against Transvaal, Northern Transvaal, Natal, etc., and all those type of teams. We've really focused on that. So I don't want to be flippant, but in a roundabout way, it's sort of that history and that tradition we're aware of. We understood that they'd just come out of apartheid. Everyone knew that. But certainly when we were there as a rugby team, and they were fantastically hospitable to us leading up to a game. When you played them, you were in a game of footy. And then afterwards, they were amazing hosts, and life was good.
You played as a Māori All Black captain as well. I think the Māori All Blacks in the 90s, you must have come in. You were roughly the same time Buck Shelford and that category of player, weren't you?
Yeah. Buck's a bit older than me, but I sort of came on the tail end of the first Māori All Black team I made in the early late 89, 90s. I can't quite remember.
89, I can tell you that. You played for the Māori All Blacks from 89 to 98.
Okay, yeah. So in 89, Buck was still the captain, and obviously, he was Buck Shelford, and I sort of cottoned on to the tail end of his career, and then I was fortunate enough, obviously, with some guys like Aaron Penne, etc.
Oh, that's right.
That ran at a later stage.
Yep.
That were able to continue the legacy of some of these sort of unbelievable, not only Māori All Black rugby players, but also All Black rugby players, New Zealand rugby players, and a player like Buck Shelford. So
okay.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to get the tail end of his career.
Now, the reason I asked you that question was to fix you at that time when your playing career was essentially the 90s, late 80s, but to the 90s, to now 2023. I remember rugby being quite exciting in the 1990s. I remember the advent of professional rugby. It was being an incredibly open, wonderful game. I went to the first game of professional rugby, I think, which was between Auckland and the Hurricanes at Palmerston North in 96. And it was an exciting time, rugby. It was a really wonderful, vivid game. It was a credit to everybody who played. The South Africans were playing in that competition as well. I looked at that game on Saturday or night, Sunday morning our time. I looked at many of the games in the tournament as well. I'm struggling to make the reconciliation. Do you have a similar problem?
Yeah, look, I hear. I think there's two things. Obviously, the first thing is as a New Zealander and a proud supporter of All Black rugby, which you are and myself are, and the millions of other people that follow that team are. We're disappointed we lost. There was an opportunity there, and we lose a test match 11-10. I think the other issue is obviously the way that game played out. Was frustrating, and yes, the game is very different now. I think we need to understand, some of us romantics, a bit like yourself, the game is very different now, and it's hard to compare to what it was like in those halcyon days of early Super Rugby, 95, 96, etc. The game is different. But I do agree that the balance of what the game needs to look like is not right. I think we all know, and I remember as a player and everyone in the rugby fraternity would say you want the decisions, or you want the outcome of the game to be decided by players. And unfortunately, at the moment, that balance has got a little bit out of skew now. And time again during World Cup rugby this year, we saw that happen where the referees, TMOs, etc., had a big say in the outcome of games, which for us as passionate rugby people is really frustrating, and it's disappointing because it's not the game we were brought up on.